Pakistan and China both looking at this visit by the Indian Prime Minister very, very carefully. You know, Modi's visit is coming in for a lot of criticism from the opposition because the opposition says this is a betrayal of India's traditional friendship with the Israelis, with the Palestinians. And therefore, while there is an embrace of Israel, have we forgotten our Palestinian friends? What's the big strategic message being sent out by the Prime Minister? Joining us on the Newsroom Showdown tonight, one of India's foremost diplomats, Hardeep Puri, very, very well-known practitioner of diplomacy, now associated with the BJP. Abhishek Manu Singhvi is the national spokesperson of the Congress party. And we've got Asuddin Owaisi, Member of Parliament, joining us. And since Asuddin Owaisi's voice has been the one most prominent voice of the opposition, I want to kickstart this debate by bringing in Asuddin Owaisi first on, you know, why he's so upset with the Prime Minister's visit to Israel. Because the government is saying we have de-hyphenated Israel and Palestine. Palestine is important to us and we've received their dignitaries. We are committed to the Palestinian cause, but this is about breaking a 70-year-old taboo. This is about India's friendship with Israel. Why are you, Mr. Owaisi, so upset?
Well, from last 25 years, India has diplomatic relations with Israel since when Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. And in last 25 years, whenever an Indian delegation has gone to Israel, they have visited the occupied territories, which has been illegally occupied by Israel. We have reaffirmed and reassured the Palestinians about their support. We have condemned the atrocities which are still continuing on Palestinian by Israelis. Now the Prime Minister is there not for few hours or one day, he's there for 3 days. I am really surprised that what has stopped the Indian Prime Minister to visit the Palestinian territory, because it's the cornerstone of our foreign policy from 7 decades that we have stood with the Palestinians. And now this government has taken a complete U-turn. And that is really objectionable, because Israel is the only occupier in the whole world as of now. You know, Rahul, we have countries who maintain diplomatic relations with Israel and still condemn it. Take the example of Turkey, Qatar. They have diplomatic relations, but they condemn Israel when it comes to Palestine.
Set the stage for this debate. Let Hardeep Puri respond. You know, never in the last 25 years since we've had diplomatic ties with Israel have leaders gone to Israel but ignored Palestine. This is the one constant criticism that the opposition is throwing the government's way. They're saying this is a radical departure from India's foreign policy of the past. Mr. Puri.
I find myself in complete disagreement with my friend Mr. Owaisi. This practice of hyphenation is something that we need to shed completely. There was a time when the United States used to hyphenate Pakistan and India. So if there was a Deputy Assistant Secretary or somebody coming from the State Department, even at a junior level, he or she, like Robin Raphael, would want to come to Pakistan and then to India, or the other way around. Look, we are a country of 1.2 billion people. We have our self-respect, our pride, and I'm afraid that I have not heard the kind of negative sentiment that Mr. Owaisi is expressing coming even from the Palestinians. I live in New York part of the time. I know a lot of people there, and I'm afraid the Palestinians have come to accept the fact that India's support for the Palestinian cause remains undiluted. You do not need your Prime Minister to go to Ramallah for us to be able to symbolically demonstrate that. We had the President of Palestine coming here. We have been able to conduct business separately, and I think it should be entirely
strong counter from Ambassador Hardeep Puri. Let Dr. Singhvi come in on this, because India's commitment to the Palestinian cause is strong. When countries like the United States try to hyphenate India and Pakistan, India opposed that. Why then should we try and carp at Modi's visit? We should in fact welcome the kind of response that Modi is getting in Israel, Dr. Singhvi.
Rahul, there is no question of cavilling or carping at a Prime Minister's visit abroad. The Congress is not critical of the visit. I don't know who has got this idea from where. I want to just make 3 or 4 quick points. One is that there is no necessary antagonism at all between good solid relations with Israel and a very solid, open, articulate, continuing support for the Palestinian cause. That has been the bedrock of Indian foreign policy. Now, I want to also make it clear that the impression is always given, although, on a subterranean level, that as if everything has happened during Mr. Modi's visit because he's the first Prime Minister, or that this government has done everything to make Indo-Israel relations a new era. We know that not only did Mr. Narasimha Rao make 92 the watershed year, but we know that it was UPA and Congress governments which have had high-level ministerial visits, including that of a foreign minister. We've had the Chief of Army Staff of Israel coming here and vice versa. Our Army Staff Chief has gone there, all during Congress UPA times. Our trade has been jacked up by the Congress UPA from some few million to 5 billion. Highest concentration of defense deals is all during our time. So I don't see this kind of an impression being given that just because the Prime Minister level visit has happened, therefore a magic button has been pressed. We must continue to judge this visit by the deliverables, which it will, I hope, deliver, not merely by the optics and the photo opportunities and the bear hugs. I think there is scope for deliverables. Let's wait for those deliverables. As far as the Palestinian cause is concerned, Rahul, I keep hearing, of course we all understand that famous quotation, that foreign policy is a matter of national interests, competing interests, and not of morality. But I don't see any antithesis of morality and pragmatism. After all, remember, India was the first country to cut off trading ties with South Africa during apartheid. Now, I don't think we can go to the extent of saying that we will condone apartheid. Similarly, we must articulate our support for the Palestinian cause. We must reassure them. We must make them feel wanted. Okay. That's about it.
Mr. Owaisi,
no Prime Minister of India
that's a very strong counter that even the Palestinians aren't objecting to Prime Minister Modi's visit. They've made their peace with India's relation with Israel. So why is Assuddin Owaisi and people like him, why are they so upset? It's not as if the relationship with Israel is being built in any way jeopardizing our relationship with Palestine. Why can't we continue with both in a dehyphenated fashion?
Well, our diplomatic relations with Israel is at the cost of India's support to the Palestinian cause. Because that is the point, because this will give a great handle to the Israeli propaganda machinery to go to the world and whitewash all the atrocities and say that here we have one of the biggest and largest democratic countries of India coming over here, and he did not even visit the Palestinian territories. Whereas, this has been the consistent policy of India, that we withstood with the Palestinians. Now, when you talk about, we have to have a security or arms deal with Israelis. As I have been a member of Defense Standing Committee from last 5-6 years, and I know for a fact that the Israelis have never given us cutting-edge technologies for surface-to-air missile. How will this relationship help us in controlling China? Please tell me. And Israel says LET, condemns LET. Then what has Israel done to bring back Lakhvi, Hafez Saeed? These fellows were involved in killings of even Jews in Mumbai. So that is why this whole question of I would say that this whole visit of Prime Minister is like an overkill. It's like an overkill completely.
You're calling this an overkill. I'll let Hardeep Puri respond. You're saying Israel hasn't helped us so far. They've got so much intelligence, so much weaponry. Take down Hafiz Saeed, take down Syed Salahuddin. Is that at all fair? Or do you believe this embrace, our headline today is Brothers in Arms, this embrace will ultimately yield the kind of objectives that Assuddin Owaisi is talking about, Mr. Puri?
There are 3 separate issues involved here, Rahul. One is the value of the relationship we have with Israel, and I think that's an assessment which the government of the day has to make, and I am entirely in agreement with my friend Dr. Singhvi, who says that this is a relationship whose value we saw in the previous governments. As I said earlier on an earlier show, in 1992 when Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister, shortly before he embarked on a visit to New York to attend the Security Council summit, we had done the homework and we announced resumption of full diplomatic relations with the State of Israel. We had consular relations. There was a commercial council who operated out of Mumbai with whom I and my other colleagues had clandestine contact. But here we had full diplomatic relations. 25 years later, we have built on the steps that the Congress governments took, the exchanges of Congress ministers going to Israel, Israeli dignitaries coming here. But I think this visit is significant because it marks the culmination of a long process in the Prime Minister's visit. How is this different? Because here we have a Prime Minister who has personally taken a decision to shed the inhibition of the past and go to Israel and see what we can do to take this relationship to a further
Inhibition of the past,
level.
past
This
taboos,
has no
those are
bearing
realities.
whatsoever
You can say that this is a gradual process, but this is a culmination of a process. Narasimha Rao may have started it, but just look at the kind of response that Prime Minister Modi got as he arrived in Tel Aviv. It was spectacular. The manner in which you had the Israeli Prime Minister there, you had all the religious heads there. The only people who get a response similar to this are the Pope and the President of the United States. That's the message Israel is sending, that we accord you the same kind of importance as we do to the Pope and to the US President, Dr. Singhvi.
Now, I just want to complete this.
Well,
Rahul.
India is always very happy when India is feted and felicitated, and Indian Prime Minister is everybody's Prime Minister, and I think it's very good to be proud of our own Prime Minister being felicitated. That's not a problem at all. My only point was threefold. One, let there be the continuity of the legacy. Let there be a feeling of continuity and credit where it is due, how this started, where it was built up, who built it up, and this is only a part of a continuous continuum. Second, that he must make also the right noises for the Palestinian cause. How does it cost the Prime Minister if he makes a few right noises of reassurance? Our policy can't be changed even by a Prime Minister, and I'm sure and I hope and trust it has not been changed, of solid support for the Palestinian cause based on the 1993 Oslo Accord and based on repeated assertions by Indian Foreign Ministry and Government of India. But then he must also articulate them and reassure those people. And thirdly, he must give credit where it is due. He must look back as much as forward, and he must be inclusive in his approach. That's about it. What else does the country want? And nobody is critical of a Prime Minister on a foreign trip abroad. He's our Prime Minister as well.
Asuddin Owaisi were talking about Israel not giving India advanced equipment. That's not necessarily true. You saw the drones deal which we led this broadcast with, the kind of armed missile drones which can take down the likes of Sayyid Salahuddin, Hafiz Saeed. That's the kind of equipment other countries have not been willing to sell to us. Israel saying, here they are, we're willing to give you these drones. They're putting their money where their mouth is. They're giving us the equipment that we need, which others aren't willing to do. So that's a big deal, Mr. Owaisi.
The Israeli drones, Rahul, have completely failed. Let me also remind you, you have a military background. The border control electronic sensors have been ineffective. The infiltration still continues. The Pakistani terrorists still enter India. They kill people, they maim our soldiers. So how effective that has been? You see, how can Israel help us hello? Yes,
go ahead. I hear you. Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah, so how can Israel help us? Is Israel going to give us drones where we can put arms or missiles over there? No, Rahul. Israel can go and bomb Lebanon. And you talk about the military supremacy of Israel. I have been to Lebanon in 2005 or 6. I have seen how Israeli army was defeated by ragtag militia. So let us not give too much of credit to Israeli military supremacy or their arms. India, the world should learn from India how to control terrorism. Because it is India which cannot act as Israel and go and bomb Lebanon or enter Lebanon or go and bomb Iraq or whatever it is. So as a democratic country, the world should learn from India. But we must understand that there's too much of hype about the Israeli military equipment. They do not give us the cutting edge technology. That's a fact. And Rahul, please remember, why is it this Modi government has double standards? Okay. A company which has been blacklisted for giving kickbacks has been given more orders.
Okay,
where is your fight against corruption?
I'm going to leave it there. I want to introduce Padmaja Joshi. She's in Tel Aviv. We've also got Jacqueline Solomon. She's an Israeli journalist. Dr. Singhvi, I see has his hand up. So very quick final words. First from Dr. Singhvi and then from Ambassador Hardeep Puri before I go across to our reporters. Dr. Singhvi, first to you. You wanted to respond to what Assuddin Owaisi is saying.
No, not respond. I just wanted to add a point, which, I mean, I'm reiterating all the points I've already made. I don't repeat them. But I want to add the point, there must be kept in mind one more thing. And nobody is blaming Mr. Modi. Nobody is talking of the Prime Minister or of an individual. But this is a nuanced point. There is a perception, there is a feeling, there is a, probably there is much to that feeling, that this government has a certain approach to minorities. Now, I'm putting it as neutrally as possible in a foreign policy context. To dispel that impression, the Prime Minister on a foreign trip in a country as sensitively located as Israel must walk that extra mile. That's about it. That's the point the Congress
Hardeep Puri respond. Let me put that more bluntly. Because the BJP doesn't care very much for votes from the minorities, therefore, the Prime Minister doesn't feel the need to reach out to Palestine, unlike previous governments which have cared more for minority votes and therefore made that extra outreach, which the BJP under Prime Minister Modi don't wish to make or don't feel the need for. Very quickly, Ambassador Puri, final words.
I think it's entirely understandable for Dr. Singhvi to make that point, but you know, I'm a proud Sikh and I know how the Sikh minorities have fared under successive governments, under the BJP and or under the Congress government in 1984. I don't want to start that discussion at all. But insofar as Mr. Modi is concerned, I think as the leader of India, as a Prime Minister, he has welcomed the President of Palestine to India. We have been having discussions with the Palestinians and the Palestinians. But if the point needs to be reiterated, I take the point. It should be in some suitable form. But I think insofar as Mr. Owaisi is concerned, he seems to have missed a very important component of our efforts at defense preparation, that we made a request for unarmed drones to the Americans in the Obama administration. We could not get them. Under the Trump administration, we have been promised, and we are negotiating a contract for unarmed drones. Now, insofar as Israel is concerned, this is the first time that a commercial contract for armed drones concluded in 2015 is being operationalized. I think as a former Ministry of Defense official, this is a big deal.
Oh, absolutely. It's a big deal. Make no mistake about it. And Mr. Owaisi is wrong on a point of fact. These are armed drones. They are deadly and they are lethal. Make no mistake about it. Yeah. Ambassador Hardeep Puri, Abhishek Singhvi and Assuddin Owaisi for joining us on this very crucial face-off. Thank you very much. I want to go across now very quickly to Padmaja Joshi and to Jacqueline Solomon. To Padmaja first. Padmaja, what's been the kind of response, the kind of welcome that we saw at the airport was quite spectacular. The Prime Minister has been travelling for 3 years now. In no other country have we seen the kind of razzmatazz that we saw on his arrival at Tel Aviv.
And the kind of reception that he saw over here hasn't been seen in Israel either, with the exception maybe of the US President Donald Trump and the Pope himself. And you speak to anyone here, whether it be the local community, Rahul, whether it be the local journalists, and they're quite shocked that you know, the kind of reception, the kind of turnout. You had the entire cabinet, you had got religious leaders, you've got the Prime Minister himself who spoke in Hindi, who said, "Aap mere achhe dost hai," that the kind of hug that the two of them had. You know, you had Benjamin Netanyahu in the course of that hug saying, "This is historic, this is huge." And then he's pretty much going to be with him every step of the way. So the next 3 days that the Indian Prime Minister spends over here in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, Rahul, we are going to have his Israeli counterpart practically shadow him. This is really, really rare. So for anyone who's in any doubt about the kind of importance Israel is attaching to it, I think tomorrow there is a brief meeting that Mr. Netanyahu has with the president. And after that, again, there will be a series of meetings where he will be accompanying his Indian counterpart. And of course, the two of them are meeting for a personal dinner in the evening today as well, before the formal talks that happen tomorrow morning. And that, I think, is quite enough to show what is the importance of this visit for the Israeli government.
Padmaja has a lot of work to do today. She's in Tel Aviv, will be covering this visit. I'm going to let her go. Thanks, Padmaja. I want to go across to Jacqueline Solomon. We've been looking at how India is perceiving this visit. You're in Israel. Tell us what the Israelis are thinking. Jacqueline, welcome. Okay, give me a moment. We seem to be having some problems with that audio link. We're slipping into a break right now. When we come back, we'll have Ram Madhav joining us. BJP General Secretary Ram Madhav joining us. We'll see if we can quickly get Jacqueline back for you. He's the key voice in the BJP on foreign policy. We'll explain this visit when we come back on the other side of a quick break. Stay with us.